Since its release back in 2016, there have been countless theories floating around surrounding Moana and her journey across the sea to return the heart of Te Fiti. And honestly, I love it. One of the best parts about movies, and art in general really, is that it was made for literally anyone to enjoy it as they see fit. Though movies are often created with a specific idea in mind, they are often open to being interpreted by each individual audience member differently and in their own way, and it allows people to connect with it in whatever way they are able to. There is no specific formula as to how people should be viewing it, and we believe that this especially holds true in Disney films, which is what makes them so great. Two people might love a Disney film, but both might have very different reasons for connecting with it so strongly, and that's truly wonderful. Now when it comes to Moana, no two theories are exactly the same, but a lot of them seem to be focused on how Moana was able to not only complete her perilous journey, but how she managed to do so while performing seemingly superhuman feats. One of the darker theories floating around out there is that Moana ended up dying at the beginning of her journey, and that her being dead was the only reason that she was able to complete her mission and return the heart to Te Fiti. This theory is particularly interesting because not only would it explain how Moana was able to return the heart, but it also explains how she may have turned into a demigod, and why Te Fiti looks exactly like Moana once her heart is returned to her. The theory starts shortly after Moana begins her trip across the sea to return the heart to its rightful owner. However, as you know, things don't quite go as planned, and Moana instead finds herself in the middle of the ocean with no land in sight, and her boat capsized. It's at this point that Moana begged and pleaded with the ocean to save her and to help her complete her mission, and almost immediately, as if in response to her request, thunder booms and lightning crashes into the sea on the horizon. This all happens right before a giant wave begins to form over Moana, sending her tumbling into the depths of the ocean as the world around her fades to black. All seemed lost for a moment. However, as soon as the darkness fades away, Moana found herself awakening on an island that happened to be the exact one she was looking for. The island that Maui, demigod of the wind and sea and all that other stuff, had been stranded on. Now, in case you didn't know, there are several different Pacific Islander cultures that deal with and make reference to an underworld, which is often the home of spirits and other supernatural beings. Well, one fan theory is centered around the idea that when Moana was taken under the giant wave that she, in turn, ended up dying, and when she woke up, she was in her culture's underworld, only to come back to life exhibiting similar characteristics of a demigod. But this begs the question, why would the ocean kill Moana? I know, it seems very out of character for that entity that had been guiding Moana thus far on her journey. Well, what if we told you that the ocean knew that Moana would have to journey across the different planes of existence in order to complete her mission? And if you aren't convinced that Moana ended up in some sort of underworld, think about all the interactions that she has following her boat capsizing. Moana doesn't come into contact with a single human or normal creature from that moment, up until she returns the heart of Te Fiti and makes it home to her island. The only entities she runs into are Maui, a demigod, Tamatoa, a giant crustacean who is not only shiny, but also Maui's archenemy, and the Kakamora, a band of pirates who don't appear to be human and instead wear the shells of coconuts as masks and armor. She even gets to speak with her grandmother's spirit, whom she may have been able to see earlier in the film, but was not able to directly interact with in her human form. Only the forms of the animal spirit ray that Tala was symbolized as, and thus giving us the impression that because she can talk to Tala's human spirit, the Moana may have passed on as well. Another thing that fans have noticed that not only adds to the theory that she has made it to the underworld is the fact that she never seems to get hurt, despite the numerous times that she would have come face to face with her own mortality. Not to mention the superhuman feats that she manages to accomplish, like swimming literal hundreds of feet down into the ocean in order to make her way into the realm of monsters. Free diving that distance is something that even professionals would have an extremely hard time doing. So how was Moana able to do it? Could it be because she has been reawoken as a demigod? Not to mention the fact that she survived her battle with Tamatoa only to be shot back up to the surface through a geyser. Yet she comes out unscathed and manages to return the heart to Te Fiti, which is something that some fans believe would have been only possible if she had died along the way. Now, there is another theory that brings into account the fact that after receiving the heart and turning back to normal, Te Fiti bears a striking resemblance to her savior, Moana. The gist of the theory is that Moana and her ancestors are descendants of a demigod that was granted demigod status by Te Fiti. I think that anyone watching the movie would believe that there was something spiritual going on with Tala, Moana's grandmother. Toward the beginning of the film, we see her dancing with the giant rays in the ocean who appear to be moving in a sequence with her, something that's not typical of the species. I mean, yes, it's a Disney movie, but normally speaking, rays are usually quite skittish and tend to not get too close to humans or other things that are foreign to the ocean. And I mean, do we even have to talk about the fact that when Tala passed away, she not only broke our hearts, but somehow manifested her spirit into the form of a stunning looking spirit ray? This was clearly something that didn't normally happen, considering the way that Moana reacted to seeing it. Now, you may be asking yourself, why the demigod of Te Fiti rather than the demigod of the ocean? Clearly the ocean is trying to help Moana, so why not have her become the demigod of the ocean? Well, throughout the movie, there is this underlying feeling of cooperation that can be seen between the ocean and Te Fiti, though for most of the movie, it's Te Ka. So you might think that the easiest solution would have been for the ocean to have returned the heart on its own, and cut out the middleman that was Moana. I mean, even Maui asked why the ocean doesn't just do the job on its own. However, if you notice later in the movie, Te Ka is unable to go near the ocean without getting hurt. So in the end, the ocean wouldn't have been able to save Te Fiti, it would have merely killed Te Ka had it tried. So the next best answer would be to use one of the children of Te Fiti. The reason we say children of Te Fiti is because of the symbol that is used for her. It's the same symbol that can be found on the heart, the swirling pattern that almost looks like a yin-yang symbol, and it's the same symbol that can be found on the boat that Moana chooses. You know, when she had the opportunity to choose from a handful of different boats left behind by her ancestors, the one that she chooses just happens to be the boat with the symbol of Te Fiti, meaning that not only is she connected to the goddess, but her ancestors were as well. Now, throughout the film, we can see them take symbolism from various cultures, such as the yin-yang style symbol, or even the fact that Moana appeared as if she was Moses when she asked the sea to part. Well, in a lot of cultures that were founded around ancient Roman Greece, they often believed that their leaders were descendants of the gods. So what if Te Fiti granted a human, one of Moana's ancestors, demigod status so that they could populate and create life across the islands that she had created? Thus, making the demigod of Te Fiti likely to become a voyager and a leader among his or her people. And the fact that Moana's ancestors were voyagers lines up perfectly with that. So now we have two strikingly similar theories, and both support the fact that Moana was a demigod. However, the two theories have one thing in common that seems to keeping them from being the same theory: time. You see, the first theory dealt with Moana becoming a demigod after her journey began. Meanwhile, the other theory talks about how she may have already been a demigod before her journey even began. But what would you think if we told you that there was a way that both of these theories could work together? All you would have to do is make some minor changes, and they would still make sense, only they would now also line up with one another. You see, we believe that Moana was indeed meant to be the descendant of Te Fiti, only she was never granted her demigod status because both of her parents are human. And so far, we only know of two ways that someone could become a demigod in the Moana universe. The first way is to have one parent who is a full-blown god, and one parent who is 100% mortal human. This obviously doesn't work for Moana because both of her parents are boring old humans. Lame. The second way to become a demigod is one that Moana is actually capable of, and according to the first theory, might have been done. You would have to get killed and then turned into a demigod, just like what happened to Maui. So in theory, Moana had two human parents, only one of them happened to be a descendant of Te Fiti, which ended up leaving Moana with godlike abilities that had yet to be awakened. And the only way to awaken them would be through death, where she would then return to life as a demigod, now with the strength she needs to return the heart of Te Fiti, the goddess that she was modeled after. It's like she had this demigod genetic code in her that was only able to be activated once she died. Otherwise, if she didn't have descendant status, she would have probably died in the storm that the ocean sent. Like a normal human with no connection to the godlike beings, would probably not be able to come back as a demigod. It's not impossible, as we don't know Maui's history and who his parents were, but it seems to make the most sense that Moana was able to come back demigod because she had ties to a god herself. This would also explain why the ocean chose Moana in the first place. I mean, as we mentioned before, the ocean was unable to do the job itself, but since the ocean knew who Moana was and what her destiny was, it knew what it had to do. And that's why, in Moana's cry for help, the ocean answered in the most brutal way possible, with death, because it knew that she would be able to come back as the demigod that she truly was. To us, the slight change to the theories seem to align perfectly. It explains how Moana was able to survive the storm in the first place and not die completely, and it also explains why Moana looks exactly like Te Fiti. But what do you guys think? Do you think these two theories could align with a small change in detail? Be sure to share your opinions with us in the comments section. We would love to hear your thoughts. As for now, that's all Disney fans. Let us know what video you'd like to see next in the comments, and like and subscribe for more magically packed videos.